how is your walnut? I'm Kevin Frankish.
And I'm Bryce Wild.
And we're going to be talking about your walnut. Why are we using walnuts here, Bryce?
Well, I'll tell you something first, Kev, is most of us guys, we really don't pay too close attention to our health. But deep within our pelvic anatomy, we actually have what we might want to refer to as our walnut. It's the prostate gland. And this is a really important gland for us. This is really important for a number of reasons.
We hear so much about it. Yeah. And you had said, it's like a walnut. And then I've seen pictures of it, and it is.
Well, it's almost identical to the size and shape and even the contour when it's healthy. And I say size and shape, and we'll focus on that in a couple of seconds here. But what does this thing actually do for us? So underneath our where we're holding our urine in our bladder, there is a urethra, and through that, urine will pass, and of course, we'll have a pee. But the particular walnut that we're talking about here, and the size and shape and contour of it being that utmost important thing when it's healthy, I'm going to demonstrate for you here what happens. You're having a nice, regular pee. Okay, so if this little funnel cup here is your bladder, and this green structure here is your urethra, and I add a little bit of water to that. See that nice little flow there?
Yeah, it's
beautiful
perfect,
flow,
yeah.
Right? All right. Well, when this little purple, in this case, it's the walnut, the prostate gland. Mm-hmm. When this is compromised and or swollen, because the prostate will grow outwards. We'll talk about why. But when it grows outwards, it also grows inwards. So what happens in an enlarged prostate scenario? Look at that compromised dribble. That's not a nice urination.
That's not what it was before.
Not at all.
And so what you're saying is the walnut, we hear about an enlarged prostate. And so it gets bigger, but it also, as you said, pushes
inwards, right, on this urethra. So again, by demonstration, in the bladder, which is filled with urine, and that walnut, if you will, or the prostate is enlarged in size, this is the flow we get. So the symptoms related to an enlarged prostate are extremely difficult for a guy. And yet, most guys after the age of 50, are going to have walnut problems. They're going to have prostate problems.
That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a death sentence or anything like that. You're going to have problems with the prostate.
Not at all. Well, and maybe we take a step back here because, it's important to understand what this prostate's even doing for us. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys don't even understand. The fact that this anatomy is there, it's, encompassing your urethra, that's one thing to know it's there. But what it actually does is create fluid that actually bathes semen or sperm. And it's really important. So there are nutrients in that fluid. It helps to bathe the sperm and feed the sperm, the ejaculate, if you will. And so it finds its way eventually to the egg and ultimately fertilizes the egg. So without the fluid that the prostate gland provides, the semen can't get to where it needs to get. That's number one. It will die. The other thing is the prostate will actually contract and add force to the ejaculate so that it also, once again, gets there. But if that prostate is enlarged and it's also not working functionally, the production, the amount of that actual fluid is also reduced and compromised. So guys experience this in terms of frequent and very urgent urination, that inability to have a nice flow and a stream. That's also very important. There's increased urination at night. That's another thing. It wakes guys up all the time. This is a problem. I mean, sleep is so important for overall health, and they're just not getting that deep and restful sleep. But here's the big thing, and a lot of guys don't necessarily know or talk about this, is an enlarged prostate can contribute to low sex drive as well as erectile dysfunction.
Because it has so much to do with the sexual function within a man.
That's right. Well, especially the actual fluid that will ultimately add to the seminal fluid, which is, of course, produced in your testes, lower down, right? But together, you're right, the testes that manufacture the sperm and the prostate go hand in hand to having a nice ejaculate flow. And this is the sensation that guys appreciate when they climax. So that's not often talked about. Erectile and ejaculatory function is something that we can actually improve upon, though. And that's the message of today. So what are those things that we're going to do naturally that actually shrink the prostate gland, go from this kind of a flow, which is nominal, dribbly, fractionated urine, to that?
But before we fix our walnut, We don't know there's something wrong, and we got to deal with it. And we're using words today that people snicker at all the time: ejaculate and urethra and peeing and things like that. But it's something, and for that reason, we don't talk about it. There's a stigma.
That's true.
You don't want to talk about your walnut. You don't want to talk. So if you want to call it your walnut, you know what? I think I'm going to get my walnut changed. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe if that makes you feel better, that's great.
It's so true. Conventionally, that is to say, what traditional medicine has to offer insofar as treatments, we can get into that as well as the natural. But a lot of what folks shy away as well, and you just mentioned it, is the glove. You know, so it's that, right?
If you're a doctor, stop doing that.
Digital rectal exams, and it's really nothing more. I'll demonstrate. It's really nothing more than lubing up, the examiner's finger and getting it through the rectum. And what you're trying to do is feel the contour. This is very important. The contour of the walnut. So this is what's happening is through the anus to feel that contour, and you're wanting to make sure that that contour is smooth, kind of rubbery, soft, palpable. When this grows in size, it could be what's called benign prostate hyperplasia, the focus of today. But when it's rigid and there's a lot of bumps, that can signal prostate cancer. And that's a problem. We want to catch this kind of stuff early. So the digital rectal exam has been in place for a very long time, and guys need to step up and get in for that doctor check to make sure that the prostate is in good form and the walnut is happy. And
it's quick. It's not comfortable.
Right.
It isn't.
It isn't. We're not going to lie. But at the same time, it's like you said, it's in and out, excuse the figurative term, and it's done within a couple of minutes.
You know what? I always compare, men's health and women's health. Women spend their lives going to doctors and doing uncomfortable things. Their whole lives.
Gynecological exams are not fun, and in the birthing room where they're delivering a baby, or you're having an annual physical and doing the whole gynae physical. Yeah, they have it worse than us. It takes a lot longer.
Essentially, we don't have to worry too much until we're over 50, and then it's in and out.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned 50 again. Because 50% of men. 50% of men over the age of 50, 50% of men over the age of 50 have BPH, or benign prostate hyperplasia, enlargement of your walnut. 70% of men over 60 are going to have benign prostate hyperplasia or enlarged walnut. And then 70+% of men over 80 are going to have benign prostate hyperplasia. So think about that. That is a huge statistic. So basically all of us will go at some point or another to a doctor, and with these symptoms, once again, let's remind folks what's going on with the walnut. We're going to have frequent urgent urination, hesitancy starting that urine flow, and again, that's that strangulation of the prostate gland around the urethra, so it's not allowing for good flow. Weak stream is basically dribbling, and low sex drive. Let's not forget this is an underpinning of hyperplasia.
Low sex drive. Let's define that a little better if we could.
Sure.
You don't wanna?
You just don't feel like you wanna. Like the libido is lower, and this really does have it's all related to what the hormones are doing at any given time. So the underpinning of an enlarged walnut to begin with is really hormone based. And so, as a guy, we need testosterone. That's a known androgens, male-based hormones. We need a lot of this flowing around our system, healthy levels. You can get tested for this. But testosterone does this thing. It converts into DHT, dihydrotestosterone. What we've learned in, the last 70 or so years is that DHT feeds the walnut, causes it to grow. So too much DHT is going to feed the walnut, it's going to turn it into a supersized walnut, and then again, clamp down on that urethra. But the other thing that's going on is this hormonal conversion. And as we age, as women go through menopause, guys go through manopause or andropause. So our testosterone tends to take a bit of a flunk. So although the amount of DHT converted from testosterone is what the prostate needs to grow, the lack of overall testosterone systemically available is causing a libido flunk.
And we're going to talk more about that and how to remedy that in another episode.
Yeah, absolutely we will. And because there are some very simple ways that we can increase our overall testosterone at the same time as dampen DHT or dihydrotestosterone. Now, a lot of the drugs available, by the way, I should mention this, on the market to get our prostate shrunk, they rely on what's called a 5-alpha reductase inhibition. It's the only time I'll even say that. It's a long term that basically means let's shut down that conversion of testosterone to dihydro or DHT. Now, again, the amount of testosterone available is almost irrelevant. It's all about that conversion that grows the prostate. How we manage that particular conversion is how the drugs work. Turns out there's a lot of natural remedies that can do this as well, which we'll also talk about in some upcoming segments. But I wanted to mention before we kind of sign off on this first Anatomy 101, other things can go wrong with the prostate other than enlargement. It's also important to get checked for these things as well. There's infectious prostatitis. Anything with itis, by the way, as you know, Kev, at the end of it means inflammation.
I just know it doesn't mean it's good.
Right, yeah. It's a problem. Prostatitis, whether it's infectious or non-infectious, so typically there's bacterial prostatitis.
We have a lot of problems with inflammation as well.
Medical buzz term of the day for a reason.
Yeah, throughout our bodies.
Yep.
And so why not the prostate?
Well, yeah, any organ can get inflamed, absolutely. The heart can have inflammation, the lungs can be inflamed, the liver can be inflamed, any organ can be inflamed. Frankly, most of, again, that end point of that suffix itis means inflammation. So prostatitis can be a problem. It affects a lot more often younger guys. And then, of course, there's prostate cancer. So this is a whole, topic of conversation you want to be having with your family doctor, screening prostate cancer. Looking for that very, very important blood marker called prostate-specific antigen, and seeing not just that it goes up, but the vector and speed at which it goes up year over year is a good tracking mechanism. But the focus, once again, is the size of the walnut. There's a lot that we can do naturally.
Size matters, apparently, when it comes to your walnut as well.
It absolutely does, yeah.
Okay, well, this has been Walnut 101, just sort of giving you an idea of what your prostate does, where it is, and what could go wrong. So our next episode, we are going to be talking about feeding your walnut. What are the good foods for your walnut? What are the bad foods, too?
Yeah.
Things that you should avoid.
Stuff that's going to enlarge it, stuff that's going to inflame it, and of course the stuff that's going to keep it small, normal, and functioning for you. I mean, a healthy walnut, again, means a healthy sex drive, means good urinary flow, means a better sleep, and food can be thy medicine.
And our third episode will be exercising and resting your walnut. That's important.
Absolutely.
And our final and fourth episode will be fixing your enlarged walnut. All hope is not lost. We tend to sadly think, oh my gosh, it's all over. I've got an enlarged prostate. But we're going to talk about what can be done. But the key here is that early detection is everything.
Absolutely everything. Getting checked annually, especially after that age 50, that's when the stats start to hike up. Remind you at home, after 50 years old, most of us are on our way to start experiencing BPH, or benign prostate hyperplasia.
All right, thanks, Bryce.
Yeah, thank you, Kev.
And thank you very much. Tune in for our next episode.